Yeah.
I think we're okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, people just won't sit here.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You don't want that, or you do want the channel?
We just didn't want it in front of the podium.
Okay. You want me to help you move this table? I think this works.
I can just sit over there.
Does that work?
Yeah, but then they're gonna be right in front of that.
There we go. Does that work?
Okay, whoa, all right. This is a mic I can work with. Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Going to shift our brains from that great opening plenary to Community Land Trust. Who's excited about Community Land Trust? Yes, all right. I love it. So, kicking us off this morning, my name is Betsy McGovern Garcia. I'm the Vice President of Self-Help Enterprises. And Self-Help Enterprises is a 60-year-old nonprofit organization that works here solely in the San Joaquin Valley. We cover the 8 counties of the San Joaquin Valley floor, and just so we can get out of the heat, occasionally we go up to Mariposa County, which is also part of our service territory. We own and operate over 3,000 units of rental housing. In 1965, we pioneered the mutual self-help method of housing construction to help families achieve home ownership. So we work side by side with families in groups of 10 to 12 who work 40 hours a week over the course of construction, which tends to be 10 to 12 months. And they do everything from framing and pouring foundations to framing homes and hanging drywall and painting the interior of the units. And that sweat equity helps make the dream of homeownership affordable for families. We've developed over 6,600 homes through that program. Additionally, we're active in water and wastewater. So you can really distill our work to two things, housing and water. We actively deliver water to over 1,000 households still. It was up close to 2,000 at one point in time during the peak of the drought. We work on clean drinking water in schools and working with small districts and rural communities to help improve wastewater infrastructure and water infrastructure. Really excited to be here with you this morning. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our panelists because it is one of my pet peeves to sit awkwardly at the table while somebody else reads my bio. So I'm going to go ahead and invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves this morning, please.
Good morning. My name is Joy Eubanks, and I am the Community Development Officer for Community Vision Capital Consulting here in Fresno. I am based out of Fresno. However, Community Vision is based and headquartered in San Francisco. But we are doing quite a bit of work here in the Central Valley as a CDFI that is really on the forefront of making sure that CLTs are taken care of, looked after, and become a very sustainable part of the landscape here. So thank you for having us here today.
Good morning. I'm Kyle Lepeshmidt. Here are the pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of the South Tower Community Land Trust that operates in the southern part of the Tower District here in Fresno, California.
Hedet Kuyoshim Yanika Franco. I'm Yanika Franco from the Wukchumni tribe in Tulare County. I am the Vice Chairperson for the Tribal Council and the Director of Culture and Land Stewardship for the tribe, which has also my responsibility to develop our community land trust as part of that work. I'm also on the board for the California Community Land Trust Network along with Kyle, and I'm also a board member for Food Link for Tulare County, our local food bank.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jacqueline Rivera, or Jackie Rivera, here with the California Community Land Trust Network. I'm our San Joaquin Valley Community Ownership Program Coordinator. Quite a mouthful. And I'm coming all the way from Madera. I'm excited to share more.
Okay, so I want to preview a few of the topics that we're going to cover this morning. We're going to talk about the growth of community land trusts in the San Joaquin Valley. This is a new model. There's several organizations in Fresno, regional groups, and then my organization, Self Help Enterprises, is helping to administer and lead the Bakersfield Community Land Trust. We're going to talk about the current and future growth of single-family housing, multifamily housing, and commercial projects that are developed under CLTs. How CLTs are used to meet affordable housing needs. Traditional affordable housing has looked like either a homeownership model, traditional where it's fee simple, transfer the land, or affordable rental housing, which typically includes low-income housing tax credits. And so we're going to introduce the concept of land ownership under CLTs, look at best practices, successes and challenges, funding opportunities, and then collaborations within the affordable housing space. And with that, I would like to invite up Jackie to kick us off.
Does that sound okay? Yeah, awesome. Again, I'm going to kick us off with an overview of Community Land Trust and get us started on that and what our network does. First and foremost, kind of want to start with the shared definition of what community ownership means and what this refers to in these models of collective ownership, management, and stewardship of community assets, resources, services by and for the community in a particular area. Want to acknowledge that we need to first ground ourselves in recognizing that our past shapes the future, right? Our present is shaped by the past, from colonialism and the land theft of indigenous communities, from slavery to post-slavery sharecropping to redlining and urban neighborhood disinvestment. Recognizing that property ownership in the United States has been a tool to oppress Black and brown communities and marginalized communities throughout our history. And so we need strategies that put people over profit to begin to reverse those historical harms, but also to build a more equitable future. Again, community ownership models like CLTs are forms to address what we just mentioned, as well as alternatives to the status quo of profit making only, and vehicles for grassroots democratic decision making, again, around land, around our community assets. It's a way to resist displacement and create stability through affordable land tenure, housing, which we'll be talking more about today, and overall providing services and facilities that the current market will not. In short, a community land trust is a nonprofit 501c3 that holds land and buildings in trust for the community. It provides permanent affordability, and we'll talk more about that. And typically, it's governed in this tripartite board structure, although not exclusively. This means, a third of community members from the general, geographic area of that land trust, a third of residents, and a third of experts needed, although recognizing that all of the above provide expertise in our organization, right? But this last part, talking more about the technical expertise that's needed, like real estate, legal, fundraising, the like for organizations. And another quick note is that, CLTs pair really nicely with other community ownership models like cooperatives, whether that's housing cooperatives or business cooperatives. Emphasizing on the different ways that CLTs promote housing affordability, we see this beautiful image from Oakland Community Land Trust that shows really well this division of ownership of the land being held under the Community Land Trust and stewarded by community through that board. The residents being able to have more control of their buildings, whether that's through formal ownership or through more decision-making governance in their rental units. And then in the middle, this 99-year ground lease, which we'll talk more about in a minute, but just want to show kind of that spectrum of the different housing models that are possible under a community land trust, from single-family homes to multifamily rentals to limited equity co-ops and condominiums. And one thing not reflected here, but really important, is that CLTs, again, in their mission of stewardship and having more community voice and decision making, there's also this capacity building that happens, right? Depending on what tenants, what their goals are and what their kind of overall, tenure wants to be, they could start off as a rental and over time build that capacity to become a co-op and have more, again, ownership in their, official ownership legally in their units. Real briefly, I won't get into too much detail because we have folks that are doing this on the ground that could share more, but just to show again the split ownership and in particular the ground lease that ensures that the exclusive use of the affordability of these housing through resale price restrictions as well as income restrictions. Now to talk, there it goes, to talk more about the California Community Land Trust Network. We're a membership-based organization statewide. This beautiful map here is showing some of our members from established CLTs to emerging CLTs, and also made up of supporting organizations and individuals that are aligned with community ownership and CLT values. And just a quick snapshot, over 3,500 and growing CLT residents that are part of this network. What the network provides to CLTs at various stages, starting from incorporation, those that are just beginning and forming their land trust, by connecting them to legal TA or supporting them with letters of support to their city council or to funders. Because one thing to show is, first of all, that this is not a new model. I forgot to mention, here in the States, we go back to the 1960s with New Communities, Inc., and just, again, overall different ways that Black and brown communities have figured out and continue to push forward on how we can hold land collectively. And so to show that, these new organizations have a backing, a respaldo, what we call it in Spanish, of a network that's there to provide resources, that's there to connect them and refer them out to other partners, other, architects, whatever the like, So that's been super useful. And I say this as someone that also helped found the community land trust in San Jose and now playing a different role here in the Valley. When they are moving towards in their acquisitions, connecting them to real estate and business planning, TA, regional and statewide policy advocacy with our CLT members is why the network was formed, to really create this power throughout the state to support more policies, both at the local and statewide, that support community ownership. And then just briefly again, through the network, we partner with our partners to create just more toolkits, guides, publications that again continue to show the strength and the value of CLTs and overall in our network through our convenings, our working groups and committees, the resource sharing, and the peer-to-peer exchanges that happen are super vital. Specifically here in the San Joaquin Valley, it's one of our newer programs. A quick snapshot, this was able to be started in 2022, responding to an RFP put out by San Joaquin Valley funders, some of you that might be here in this room today, where we got to respond to this RFP to create a landscape scan to see, what are the, not only the interests, but what are the actual projects happening in the Valley around community ownership and overall land use strategies, and how can we understand better the challenges, the opportunities, and the assets that are here in the Valley to support more community ownership. And from that, it kind of spun off into a more permanent program and 3-year funding, fortunately, to continue to, again, support organizations on the ground through workshops, through that technical assistance that I'll talk more about. And right here, just showing briefly this map of about 30 organizations that have connected through these workshops, 18 that have been identified for more formal technical assistance, and then myself, I'll just share, I was recently hired a year ago, so great to see, just more development. And also for the network itself to be more intentional. We have a strong base in the Bay Area and a strong base in LA, and we're missing in the middle, so to also put more resources ourselves into that. Again, capacity building wise, we do this through convenings, quarterly workshops, primarily in person, with the goals of education, so folks to be exposed to different models. Of course, as a network, it focuses on CLTs, although in these workshops we also focus on other community ownership models from, again, limited equity co-ops, cooperatives as a whole, and other, especially here in the Valley, ways for agricultural community ownership. Community building is another goal, right? We want to foster relationships among organizations, and those two really helping build upon to create regional strategizing and collective power here in the region to be able to unlock, funding at the regional, the city, and the county level to support more community ownership. Another way is through technical assistance in these areas of legal, business planning, real estate, and organizational capacity. This last one focusing more on staff and board development. I will say that RTA is limited just because of the fact that we have a large membership and we're trying to provide for all, and so this is about 6 hours in each of these areas. They can be extended more as a jumping off point for organizations to be able to connect maybe longer term consultants or resources, including those that are providing this. They can form their own contracts with our consultants. But again, more as a way to move them ahead, connect them to other resources and referrals. Just a quick snapshot here. This is a stat that doesn't reflect for 2025, but more of a year so far, May to May, when it got kicked off. We kind of saw a slow ramp up, and we wanted to recognize why that was, and we reflect that it takes time for organizations, especially as they're in this learning and exploration phase, to even know what is it that they need. And so until an organization has that time to then, okay, I can sign up because I know this is what I need to move forward in my project. We saw more of an uptick then, as well as acknowledging staff capacity. Most organizations are either just beginning or they're already established nonprofits that are now looking to incubate this. And so how do you build that staff capacity and time specific to this kind of project? And lastly, wanting to integrate more agriculturally based technical assistance, which is a growing area for us as a network. Overall, just real brief, don't want to explain too much of this one, but just to share that we're learning from other regions within our network, like LA and like the Bay, where folks are also recognizing it takes a lot for organizations to do a lot of that back office work, to create all these partnerships. And so how can we also be looking here in the San Joaquin Valley to work more, create that infrastructure for more like back office collaboration? We could talk more about that in our panel. And then lastly, if you want to learn more about CLTs, it would be remiss if I don't invite y'all in 2 weeks back here to the DoubleTree for our CLT conference, which is happening for the first time in the Valley, which is super exciting. Also, our sister organization is hosting fundraisers. So if you're more into networking, please join us. Thank you. I get to introduce our board member, Janica.
Okay, so again, my name is Janica Franco with the Wokchumnee Tribe. So I'm going to be presenting a little bit about our newest project, the Wokchumnee Community Land Trust. So this is going to be a tribally led community land trust focused on providing affordable housing for our elders and community and holding land in perpetuity for the future generations. A little bit about the Wokchumnee people. We are one of the Yokuts bands that's indigenous to the San Joaquin Valley. The Wokchumnee people's region spans from around Yokuts Valley, Drum Valley area, along the foothills towards Three Rivers area. Our people traveled along the Cahuilla River and down towards the Tulare Lake. So we have a large span. The Wokchumnee people are a non-federally recognized tribe, which means we do not have a federal status, we do not have a land base, and we do not receive benefits from the federal government. So because of that, we have been resilient. We always say we're from some of the strongest people that have ever survived California genocide, the mission system, boarding schools, relocation, or forced relocation. And because of that, we found that it was important for us to formalize, so we submitted our petition for to the federal government for federal recognition in '87. That's still on hold. They don't really recognize tribes very often. But what our people have always done is taking care of each other. We've always known how to live together, work together as a community. We've always provided for one another, and we've always lived together. So we've always known that housing has always been a need of our people since relocation. The Wokchumnee Council, which I mentioned earlier, I'm the vice chairperson for the people. We conduct all business on behalf of the Wokchumnee tribe and people, which includes our 501c3, the Wokchumnee tribe. We also have the CLT that we're in the process of formalizing right now. But we offer youth services, all the social services programs for our people, food access, food sovereignty programs, and we also work on restoration and conservation efforts as well. So the one thing that has been missing is the housing element. So we decided, well, how are we going to recreate this village of ours? So we've had multiple sessions with tribal elders, youth, families. How are we going to be able to come back together as a community and take care of one another? So we decided when we came across the community land trust model, we're like, hey, this already makes sense to us. And it didn't take us very long to formalize some plans. It didn't take us very long to come up with bylaws and organization structure and how our board was structured, because we knew everything that we do is done at the leadership of our elders. So the way our board is structured is tribal councils 1/3, our elders are 1/3, and then residents are 1/3. Because we know that our elders are the ones with the most lived experience, and so we take leadership from them. As you can see in the middle, we have like our, it says Wokchumnee Ba'an, which is Wokchumnee Earth. But the center is the community aspect. And then around that is our things that bring us together, our elders, our food, our education, our health, and then we have elders housing. So the focus of our first projects are going to be focused on elders housing, because those are the people that I've been putting in the work all these years, advocating for our people, basically training me so I can be up here and representing the tribe in this way. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of our elders. We want to make sure that we're able to provide housing to our people, because we always say that the original people of this land should not be homeless on our own homeland. So the goal of our village is to make sure we're providing housing for our people. We conducted a housing needs assessment because we knew we needed housing, but if we're going to go to funders, we needed to tell them all of the numbers. We needed to tell them what is the AMI of our community, what are the needs, what do the people want. And so these are the key things that came out. We knew that there was a high housing demand. We know that people are living in overcrowded situations. We know that we have multi-generational housing, and I know that's also common in other ethnic groups, but we have a lot of elders that live with like their great-grandchildren, so there's multiple generations. It came back from the survey that people want to live in a culturally rich community, and again, going back to our village life, that was something that was core to our people. So we have that clear in numbers. We have elder housing as various specific need and want for our community, so that's even over families that recognize they have a bunch of little kids and they need a bigger house, but they would rather see their elders housed first. And then our AMI average is about 46%, which, at the time we're getting into housing and trying to understand all these numbers and acronyms, and we were like, yeah, well, that makes sense, 46%. But all of the tribal members that we surveyed, they do agree that we need to recreate this village. We decided we want to call it the Buhachai village, which Buhachai is family. So going back to that family aspect. And then just recently we acquired our first piece of land. So all of this has been a very fast progression, thank you. I had spoke to a funder in April. This has been a long time dreaming, but I spoke to a funder in April, a family foundation. They told us that they were going to fund us in May. In May, we filed our articles of incorporation, became a California corporation. In June, we put an offer in, and then in early August, we closed on the land. And last week, and then Monday, we opened our bank account. So it's been like a weird, little cycle, but everything we believe has been working out the way it needed to. And again, this is something that's not just on a whim. We've been working on this for a really long time. And so we're really excited about this first acquisition because this is going to be owned by our people and governed by our people, that we don't have to worry about the federal government or status. This is something that's going to be helping this specific community in North Visalia. And we also feel like we can be a model for other non-federally recognized tribes or just other community members that want to come together and try to formalize something for their people, that we can really be a model for others. But on this first piece of land, we want to make it a rental community. We want to make sure we're providing housing for our elders, have a community center, and then expand our current food pantry and tribal food sovereignty programs. So that's going to be the goal of this area. It is in North Visalia. It's an area that is very near and dear to our family's heart, because when a lot of tribal people in the Tulare County area were displaced, they had to work on farms. And so they became part of the migrant farm worker movement and housing. And so a lot of people ended up settling in North Visalia. And so a lot of tribal families also settled there. So there's been generations of our people in that area. And then looking towards the future, we finalized our survey, so we're going to be presenting that and sending that out to funders. We're going to be doing some capital fundraising campaigns. We're going to be continuing to meet with organizations that can help us develop, hopefully self-help enterprises and other orgs that can really help us learn this field. And then just continuing to build along with our colleagues with the California Community Land Trust Network. Like I said, I'm a board member for about a year and a half now. So it's been a really great experience. Also, we do recognize that we need to have more community ownership models here in the Central Valley. So that's another reason why I decided to join the board and just try to advocate for community ownership and how our tribes can be involved. Because as you guys seen during that presentation this morning, there was always a little red line that was American Indian. It was always less than 1%. And then pretty soon, he just stopped presenting on American Indians. So that's why it's even more important for people to know that we are still here. We are still, we are a living culture, and that we do have something that we can share and share with our community, not just our own tribal community, but the bigger community, and we can be a model for learning and sharing. So thank you, and I'll hand it over to Kyle.
Thank you so much, once again, for Yannicka. So I'm here to talk about the South Tower Community Land Trust, which is the organization that I lead. My background is trained as an architect, and I've worked for many years in the architecture field. I've also worked in affordable housing development and within CDFIs. I actually was in Joy's role years ago with Community Vision. And what I think is really remarkable about this work is that it does take an ecosystem of not just an organization, but the support network of like the CLT network, other peers, funders, community members all working together. And I'm blessed to have worked in several roles across that ecosystem and bringing that work to bear on my own neighborhood. The Tower District in Fresno, this is a neighborhood that is centered with the landmark Tower Theater and has a very vibrant culture built around it that I grew up in and around and have been able to contribute to as a community organizer, an architect, and now community developer. Within that context, Tower District has not always been the vibrant, diverse place that it is now. It's really important to share these redlining maps in the context of how our neighborhoods got formed. And the Tower District specifically, as white flight was leaving downtown Fresno and neighborhoods around downtown, southwest Fresno, Chinatown, were being redlined and people of color being segregated to those neighborhoods. The north part of the Tower District was established as a white-only neighborhood. And it's really important to hold that context that many of the homes in the nice homes that you look at and dream at being able to live in one day in the Tower District have deed covenants on them that did not allow people of color to rent or own those homes, and that institutions even like Fresno High School in the 19-teens had a junior KKK club. And in that context of the Tower District, in what it is now today with being very diverse, there's still elements of the conditions of north part of the Tower District, north of Olive versus south of Olive, that continue to have that legacy of segregation and disinvestment and concentration of industrial uses, as well as the 180 freeway being built through our neighborhood, that are legacies of how that neighborhood was founded. We have to continue to understand that in order to dismantle it. So some of the conditions in the Tower District of just the numbers that are there, really like to highlight our lack of park access. This was before a project that was just completed, but historically we've had 1/3 of an acre per 1,000 residents of park access, and our general plan for the city of Fresno calls for 3 acres of neighborhood park per 1,000 residents. So we have a huge deficit there to build up from. And in that kind of legacy of my work as a community organizer, these are justice issues that I've stood up for in the past and currently around access to healthy food. Our neighborhood is a food desert that has plenty of access to fast food and liquor stores. We have 12 liquor stores in our census tract. That's by state law should only have 6. And we have kind of unmitigated industrial expansion that is harming our environmental health in our neighborhood. We have a high percentage of homelessness experience in our neighborhood, but no dedicated shelters, and again, the lack of park access. With founding our organization, the priorities that we've really decided to dive deep on is not just housing, but parks and the public spaces that are in our community, approaching housing as social housing, where you're building community along with the home, and really addressing quality of life issues so that people are having longer, more fruitful, and prosperous lives. First, I want to share about Broadway Parque. This was a former police station in our neighborhood that was being decommissioned, and I began organizing around this in 2017 to have that police station. We kind of interrupted a kind of backdoor process happening at City Hall where they were going to rezone the property from public facilities to residential and quietly give or sell it to a developer for a market rate apartment in the neighborhood without communicating with the neighborhood about what their desires were. So we found out about that and started organizing, got to our city council members, and they agreed to not rezone the property while we went door to door through our neighborhood, polling residents, and found that 96% of the neighbors within 2 blocks of this park, of this property, wanted a neighborhood park, and so that's what we began advocating for and building a process to engage the community in the design process. We didn't ask for permission for this. We really dove in and kind of led the process ourselves in designing a beautiful neighborhood park, advocating for it at City Council, and eventually with Measure P being a measure passed for local parks and arts, we're able to get resources passed for our groundbreaking and building of the neighborhood park that just opened 2 months ago in the neighborhood. Turning to housing, some of the things that we really believe in around housing as a human right, people deserving affordability, quality, and choices in where they live, and that all being under community control rather than for profit. So progress on what we've been working on. Our first initiative was launching an accessory dwelling unit development service for our neighbors, helping homeowners with the neighborhood add units to their backyard. So adding density and adding affordable housing as well as income for lower income residents in the neighborhood. We paired not just our development work with policy work, and we've been advocating with the City of Fresno to add a Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act to city law that would allow any renter to buy the home that they're living in if it goes up for sale. Within our neighborhood, it is the center of the LGBTQ+ community in our region, not just Fresno itself. So I thought it was really important that we gather folks around understanding that experience and build it into our strategy of housing. And that turned into beginning to formally organize that into a Queer Housing Summit in 2023. And that proof of concept was very successful in bringing people together around these concepts and understanding the issues that LGBTQ+ people experience, like higher rates of homelessness, higher rates of discrimination in the home buying process, among other things. But also bringing the creativity of the queer community to bear on the housing crisis that could not only benefit the community, the LGBTQ+ community, but the broader public. And we've expanded that in its year 2, where we have a really robust space for doing that work and gathering a lot of diverse voices. And then we just held our 3rd annual Queer Housing Summit in August of this year. I've been expanding the point where this is now a national conference centered here in Fresno. So ways that you can help and join on that, and we have a link tree there. Really centering that this is an issue where our community is often under attack, especially the Black trans community is at attack at the national level and attacking these issues with radical queer joy to combat them. We completed our first acquisition to buy a home in the neighborhood and have listed that. This is the first CLT home on the market. It's on sale now. You can speak to our realtor, Joe Haydock, if you want to see it. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home for sale for $215,000, so far below the market, with the land value being about $75,000 of that. As we were working on that home, the home next door came for sale, so how could we not go after that one and purchase that, and are in the process of remodeling it as well. And working with neighbors on long-term trust on folks being able to age in place and build a legacy by donating their property into the trust is our kind of phase of donation that we're starting. Within that home, there's room in the backyard to add 2 additional units. So we're doing that, what we're calling our high-speed cottages, because it's adjacent to high-speed rail construction. So adding small units in order for them to be naturally affordable. We own a ½ acre of vacant land, which we're working on a development, partnering with Black Socolo on a urban farm, educational urban farm, while we work on a cottage development of 6 units, again, small units. Financials, we got an application in with the City of Fresno for PLHA funding for this project, and hopefully that comes through and unlocks the construction on this. Really beautiful space that we're hoping to create, healing the scar left by the 180 freeway construction. And lastly, I'll share that our office, we have all been working from homes. We now have a team of 4. Shout out to Sol on our team here, and Mirna, who's on our board. We're in escrow on this commercial building to be our office, as well as center for 2 to 3 other nonprofits. And tying back to Yannikut's work, really important within this context that our organizations go beyond land acknowledgement, and our board has made the commitment that we really want to share with others, encourage others to do this, is that our budget is a values-based document. And we want to see that the Indigenous community is being invested in repair of the genocide that happened here and many other harm that happened. And so we've identified our method is that 10% of the land value of anything that we purchase, we're donating back to an Indigenous organization for their work, and really want to invest in the repair in the community. And our first donation went to the Sierra Tribal Consortium, who operates a substance abuse care facility called Turtle Lodge in our neighborhood. Thank you very much. That's all time for me. Welcome back, Super.
Okay, before I start, full disclaimer that I hope to build Yannikut's project. We met with her and the team, and Tom said, so we're not even going to talk about this. I can tell by the look on your face that you love this project, and we are doing it. So hope to have more on that in the future. So want to spend some time talking about the Bakersfield Community Land Trust. This came together for us at Self-Help Enterprises pretty rapidly. The city of Bakersfield, in their wisdom in committing to addressing the affordable housing needs of their community, in October of 2023 adopted a resolution to establish the Bakersfield Community Land Trust. That led to work to file the Articles of Incorporation in February of 2024. And in November of 2024, they dedicated $6.5 million of ARPA funding to build housing to be owned under the land, owned under the Bakersfield Community Land Trust. Around November, they issued a request for proposals, and it said, build affordable homeownership housing in Bakersfield. And we were like, this is our jam. We build affordable homeownership housing, we should do this. What we didn't realize was that it was the entire structural and operational backbone for the Community Land Trust. So we submitted at Self-Help Enterprises an RFP, we were selected, and in December of 2024, we were appointed the operator of the Bakersfield Community Land Trust. I'm actually the executive director, so if you want to refer to me as Madam Executive Director, that is fine. And we were given a time frame of 24 months to spend $6.5 million building housing. So up for the task, we are jumping right in. We're starting with 13 homes. One of the things that we did initially was look at the land holdings. So the city of Bakersfield and the housing successor to the former redevelopment agency has probably about 30 different properties all throughout the city. We took a really fun tour where we went down, we drove from site to site to site. A lot of the properties had old homes that had partially burned down. They had different kinds of blight on them. These are infill properties in older neighborhoods where the majority of the census tract has been bought out by out-of-town investors. Some of the census tracts are as low as like 0.5% ownership rates in a city where the average ownership rates are probably 40 to 50%. And so there's a desire not only to preserve affordability, but to bring back home ownership, bring back pride of community, and bring back the values that really create great, thriving communities in Bakersfield. So we are balancing these parcels with purchasing market rate new construction homes in high opportunity areas. Because one of our beliefs is that fundamentally home ownership helps create wealth and equity for families, but it's also an opportunity for mobility and an opportunity to access schools and jobs and different things within our communities. And so in addition to taking these blighted redevelopment lots that have been vacant for 40 plus years, we're purchasing three. We have purchased 3 brand new homes in a market rate subdivision. We're going to be lottering those off in September. And then we have 10 city lots in the first tranche that we'll be developing all throughout the city, which I'll show in just a second. We're developing single-story, 2-story, and 3-story products. So Self-Help Enterprises, for the first time ever, will build a 3-story single-family home. Yes, Peter Carey's eyebrows went up. It's so exciting. And so really getting into context-appropriate development, right? If we're building in a neighborhood that's all single-family housing, we're going to go in and put in traditional single-family housing. We're going to raise up the look and feel by investing in the neighborhood, but continue, the feel and development pattern. If we're in a higher density area surrounded by multifamily with commercial, smaller lots, we're using a product that is similar to a zero lot line. So we're able to do a 2-story product on a 25-foot lot and achieve dramatically higher density than a single family product. And then downtown, there's a site adjacent to 3-story home ownership townhomes, and we're going to replicate that model and follow that pattern. As of September 5th, we had over 200 families on the interest list. We opened our intake line, we put out flyers, and it was kind of slow to get started, and then we did some media, we had a groundbreaking, and the interest just came flooding in. People want home ownership opportunities, and they are priced out of markets. And making the land, putting the land under the community land trust is a way to help achieve that affordability. We've got 134 sent to lenders for pre-approval. We anticipate over 20 in our first lottery, which will occur here in September, in a couple of weeks. So just a bit about the sites. I mentioned 3 brand new homes we acquired for a market rate builder. We're buying those for just under $400,000. We're going to turn around and sell them for about $325,000, and we're going to pair really robust secondary financing that's fully deferred. So we anticipate on average our families will borrow a primary mortgage of around $150,000, which then allows their mortgage payment to be affordable at 30% of their income. We have 1 site that the city acquired with ARPA funds, 3 former redevelopment sites, and 6 tax default sites. So the city aggressively went out and purchased sites that were on the tax default list, bought them, cleared all the liens, and they're transferring them for development. They also volunteered to go out and do demo, which kind of is a little mind-boggling because these partially burned down homes had been that way probably for 10 to 15 years. But they wanted to make things easy for us, so they did the demo. And so we're starting to see movement and shift within these neighborhoods and an improvement through that investment. So here's a map. We have 3 of our board members here today. Mr. Vincent Zaragoza put together this map for us, demonstrating that the properties are in 5 different wards within the city. Also want to acknowledge Amy Rose and Alex Mora, who are on our board, leading the work for the BCLT. So this just gives you a sense that we're not concentrating the BCLT properties in one neighborhood or one census tract. They're throughout the city and intended to give families the opportunity to maybe go back to a neighborhood where they grew up, be close to a family member who maybe provides daycare, and choose where they want to raise their families and where they want to thrive within the city. So technical assistance, once you say, I think I'm going to start a CLT, know that you are not alone. There's a ton of technical assistance available. We heard from Jackie on the California Community Land Trust Network, of which we are attempting to become a member, and we'll be at the conference in 2 weeks, so shameless plug. I hope to see some of you guys there. Grounded Solutions Network has a ton of template documents. They have a template 99-year land lease. They have ways to achieve Fannie Mae underwriting. They have things that you should think about in setting up your land trust and a bunch of materials. The City of Bakersfield has been our thought partner in moving forward with the type of affordability covenants and things of that nature. And then NeighborWorks America has worked with us on equity share structure and connecting us with resources. So Jose has given me the 2-minute mark, but I'm going to just go ahead and ignore him and keep going through my slides. So these are the Sunchase properties. These are the 3 properties that we built from a market builder that we will be selling first under the Bakersfield Community Land Trust. This is our 2-story product. We have 5 of these properties. Interestingly, one of the properties was 2 25-foot lots. And it's like, how can we maximize the density? They've got rear alleys, so not only are we putting a higher density 2-story product, we're preparing them in the future for the potential addition of an accessory dwelling unit. So this is the first stage, hoping to come back in the future and do ADUs. These units will have 5 feet between them, and we're using state density bonus law to take advantage of setback development concessions. With all of these plans, we are master plan checking them within the City of Bakersfield. So we go through building plan check one time, and then we will deploy these strategically throughout the city. So all we do is we go in with a site plan. We say we're going to put plan A100 on this site. It's already been plan checked. We can get through and get a permit within a couple of weeks. This is our single-story product. It's also our self-help product that we use within our mutual self-help housing program. We've got 5 of these that will be built in the first phase. And then we have the 3-story product, which I didn't show, is currently under development. So deploying $6.5 million. Thankfully at Self-Help Enterprises, we're really good at spending money. So we're on track to meet the target of full expenditure within 24 months. We are strategically investing those dollars and revolving them back in. The hope is that at the end of that 24-month period, we have at least $3 million that has revolved back. You can call it program income, you can call it land development dollars, but those resources will be available to create a land fund for future real estate investment. We've done a significant amount of organizational work. Jose Gonzalez from our team is leading that effort. We chair the board meetings. We've set up operating fiscal procedures. We've procured all of the insurance. When we got involved, they didn't have D&O insurance, general liability insurance, all of those things. We've put that in place. We have a travel policy, so our board members could be here today. And then completed all of the legal structure. If you are developing a CLT, you need to decide what kind of resale restriction you're going to have in place. Is it going to be a hard resale restriction where you can only sell to certain people? Is it going to be an equity share where maybe you can go up to 120% AMI, which is what we're doing? And how do you capture the land and how do you account for that equity sharing piece? We're also moving through several $1 million in 1 year, so in our first full fiscal year, we will have an audit, so going from 0 to 100 pretty rapidly. And then we did prepay 5 years of portfolio management. We have a loan portfolio management team that monitors loans, and so we're able to ensure at least for the first 5 years that's funded for the BCLT. I mentioned our first lottery. We've never done a lottery at Self-Help Enterprises. We got one of those bingo spinners and the balls that float around. We're really excited figuring out how to stream that. That will be September 17th. We're releasing those in phases because we want families to go through our Gateway Home Ownership Program. We want to give them time to work on their credit, to establish a budget to save for a down payment. So we're not releasing them all at once, we're releasing them in phases. We're actively engaging and have conducted outreach to the lender community. We need mortgage companies and lenders who will lend on community land trusts. Also, Fannie Mae has a checklist, if you're doing a CLT, of all of the things you need in your 99-year land lease. So we have reviewed that checklist, submitted that to Fannie Mae. So we're hoping to get the stamp of approval so that lenders know that they can provide Fannie Mae backed mortgages. We're hoping to buy the 10 sites or get the 10 sites from the city by the end of this week, actually, commence construction, and then continue working with the city on permanent local housing allocation funds for secondary financing, because the more secondary financing we can secure from the city, that other working capital can come in as future real estate dollars to do future projects. So a lot going on. We're very excited. The city of Bakersfield has been a tremendous partner and has really invested in the community land trust model, and we're excited to bring forward these homeownership opportunities. And I think I just went 1 minute over, so Jose's not going to be mad at me. Okay, Joy, turn it over to you.
All right, let's give all our panelists so far a good welcome. Yeah. Good job. My name is Joy Eubanks, and and I am the Community Development Officer for Community Vision Capital Consulting. At Community Vision, we really believe that community land trusts and CLTs and CDCs, they have such a profound impact on the work that's done in the communities that we support them unequivocally. These organizations are crucial to promoting long-term community ownership and preventing displacement, particularly in underserved areas. So a little bit about community vision. We really want to focus on how organizations are able to, so I know everybody knows what a CLT is. I'm not going to go through that. We've kind of worked through that. Yeah, we've done that. So I will just go off I'm going to go from the hip here. Okay. So we're deeply committed through initiatives like CalCore, a program that's designed to meet the unique needs of emerging CDCs and CLTs, especially those led by or serving communities of color. To date, over 40 organizations have been empowered by CalCore's extensive training and experience. Yeah, this is 108 slides. I'm not sure why they sent this as this is horrible. Uh-oh. I went too far back. Or too far forward.
And that's a wrap, folks.
I'm kind of getting that. Understanding the hurdles of organizations can face in securing capital, we provide crucial low-cost pre-development financing. That's what Community Vision is known for. These loans are essential during the early steps and stages of real estate projects, helping to cover costs like architectural planning, site surveying, which are vital to getting policies and projects off the ground. Recently, we closed several pre-development loans supporting both current and former CalCore participants in advancing their projects and connecting capital to community. A couple of our projects that we've done here in the Central Valley is Lowell CDC. It's dedicated to revitalizing the Lowell neighborhood by expanding affordable housing, including innovative tiny homes and accessory dwellings, units, and essentials, ADUs. The funding supports pre-development work for progressing their plans, including site work, commercial space, and 4 tiny homes on their lots. We also did South Tower CLT, my good friend Cal. And it's a newly formed organization, as he spoke about, focused on creating affordable housing and community development, and is working on the San Pablo Cottages project in Fresno's diverse South Tower neighborhood. This initiative plans to utilize a triangular lot that has remained vacant since the construction of the 180, which we talked about earlier, and the first phase of the project involves the installation of 7 tiny homes. These are new things that we're looking at doing and wanting to support. As a CDFI in California that really focuses on people of color and those organizations and populations that don't get the support that they need, Community Vision really focuses on it, and we're very adamant about making sure that those organizations get the support they need. So we are funding these projects, actively funding them throughout California, all the way from the Oregon border, all the way down to Bakersfield. So by all means, there's projects that you have your eye on or would like some more information on getting support on, we will help you with that. We have an advising and a lending team. Our advising team is real estate based, so we only do commercial real estate lending on nonprofit support. So we don't do any for-profit lending. All of it's nonprofit. We make sure that our organizations that we support are absolutely making impacts in those neighborhoods and those communities that have been unjustly unserved for the last 300 years. So if you're interested in that, by all means, let me know, and we're more than happy to connect you with my lending team, my advising team. Community Vision Capital Consulting, we've been around for 36 years. We're not new to the work that we do. We are a pioneer of this type of work. CLTs and CDCs are essential in making sure that our communities continue to work and continue to be a vital part of any community. So, and you can have your 5 minutes, I'm done.
Okay, I think we have a few minutes left, right, till 11:15. So questions, what questions do you guys have, comments or additions to the conversation? William?
I have a question. Does the houses being built on the land trust reduce the overall value of the house when resold in a way that would negatively affect people's ability to grow wealth through owning a home?
Wow, great question from a fiscal analyst. All right, panel, do you guys have thoughts?
I would say when we establish the land lease, there is a term around the resale. Our land trust specifically, we tie the resale value to growth in area median income. So as the proportion of area median income rises, that's the value that the homeowner can recapture when they resell it. Also, if they do major improvements that improve the value of the home, they can recapture those when they resell. But what's really important is that we are removing this home from the speculative market, that it's no longer going to be sold at the current market value when it does resell. So that's an important concept of the community land trust, of how we're stabilizing some properties in a neighborhood to no longer continue escalating in that way. Where it is a trade-off with that homeowner is that they're able to purchase a home when they ordinarily would not be able to qualify for any other home. So they're able to get into home ownership and build equity by each principal payment that they're making. They're earning equity that they will recapture, but they won't gain the growth in the market price.
Okay, so the idea is that you're bringing the start line closer to them. Okay.
Yeah, and in the Bakersfield Community Land Trust, we have the same kind of resale formula that's tied to the increase in income. But we also are selling the homes initially to households at 80% area median income or below, and allowing resale up to 120% of area median income, because one of our goals is wealth creation, and one of our second goals is raising the economic positioning and the value in that neighborhood. And so we don't want to restrict everything in that neighborhood to low income. We want some growth in equity, and so resales are up to 120%. One of the other benefits is there is a property tax exemption for the land that is owned under a CLT. So the owner of the house is going to get the benefit of not paying property taxes on the land. So the hope is that that would be really attractive and create value for future buyers. Great. What other questions do we have? Yes?
Hi, Betsy. I'm Rose Pereira. I'm with Tri-County Bank Community Development Officer. And I guess my question is more for Joy. Hi, Joy. Nice to see you. So I feel that there's a lot of discomfort with the banks really getting into this specific area. And it's just because they don't, the processes and the land won't be ours, you know, if something was to happen. So when you say you
How you doing? So basically, what CDFIs do that are different is we don't conform to the normal banking, conformities that we have to do based on the funding sources, because all our funding is private. So with that being said, yes, we can absolutely talk to you guys about how we can make it work, but it's going to be a little bit hard for most traditional banking models to do it, simply because the money's different. As much as I'd love to say, oh yeah, Citibank will run in, Tri-County Bank, it'll be hard for them because they're going to feel the risk is way too high. I work for Tri-County Bank, so I know for a fact they're going to be like, no.
So I talked to a couple of banks that are already doing
Yeah.
it, and they were very positive.
Right.
This Banner Bank, who's not based here, but we talked to a gentleman who was in Arizona or somewhere else. He was, and he made it sound like it's not such a big deal as we make it out to be, but it's just new to us. So
Absolutely.
there's that discomfort.
Yeah.
So that's why, and I work with a lot of CDS clients, since I worked with you before, but so that was my question.
Absolutely. Let's have a conversation. Let's sit down and kind of see if there's a way that we can work around those fears and those, uncomfortabilities that happen to happen with those big banks. Absolutely. That's a great question.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to read our 99-year land lease, because we did incorporate the Fannie Mae provisions. There is the ability for a mortgage default to eliminate the resale restrictions so that you can capture the full value of the unit. There's quite a few benefits for mortgage lenders built into the documents, because we cannot be successful without the mortgage lending community. And you will have a stamp of approval from Fannie Mae on our documents, which I think match Freddie's standards. And so encourage you to look at that language and run it through your legal team, because these are models that have been successfully tested nationwide and are accepted by Fannie and Freddie.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
What I would add to on the risk assessment is that each one of these homes has a community organization wrapped around it, really dedicated to see that they stay in their home, that they don't get foreclosed on. And so that's, I think, going to mitigate a lot of the risk, and that we're going to hold a mortgage party and get them their mortgage payment from the community before we let them get foreclosed.
And you have a captive list of people who want to buy the unit at resale. We're going to have 200 families sitting on a waiting list who want to buy a future unit. So if it comes up for sale, to sell it to another income eligible family, we have 200 people on our list who are mortgage ready, who have gone through home ownership counseling, who are ready to purchase that unit.
Thank you.
Great question. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So, what would be the process for an existing multifamily building or an HOA to transition to a community land trust? It's right now a co-housing concept. It's co-housing in Fresno.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, you want to understand what your goals for the community are. One benefit of land trusts is that there's funding and capital available for the cost of the land acquisition, and the property acquisition. So if the goal is to keep it permanently affordable and take the land out of the equation, and you have the ability to access capital to do that, then you would form the nonprofit that is the land trust. I mean, it could be a nonprofit or a special purpose entity. All of our multifamily projects are owned by limited partnerships, and they only own that one community. Kind of a version of a land trust if you think about it, but it's rental housing. But to put it under the land trust, take out the land value because you're financing that with foundation grants or other below market capital. And then parlay the units if there's individual home ownership through like a condo model where they own their airspace. You do a condo map to sell off the airspace rights to the individual units, and then just keep the underlying land under the CLT. But I find that the first thing you should be doing is defining what the goals of the project are, and often that will inform what model is most appropriate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you clarify in what you just articulated, the LLC differentiation from the community land trust?
Yeah, so our Bakersfield Community Land Trust is a nonprofit. The nonprofit is helpful because it qualifies for the property tax exemption. If you are using low-income housing tax credits, then you need to have a limited partnership that owns the property, and that is the vehicle to syndicate to deliver the tax credits. So it really depends on what your financing model is and what you're trying to achieve. You can also flow through the property tax exemption through a taxable entity like a corporation, a limited partnership, or a limited liability corporation if you're managing general partner as a nonprofit. So there are ways to achieve the property tax exemption in a limited partnership. I love answers like that. Okay, what other questions do we have? Can you think about starting a CLT?
Yeah, and if you start one, how do you make sure it's going to be financially sustainable over time? How do you pay for your bills?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have worked a few things into the structure. On the original sales side, we are charging an origination fee. It's not much. I think it's $450 for each sale that goes on the escrow statement to cover some of the upfront costs. We don't have a lease payment, but we have a monitoring fee. We ended up shifting that monitoring fee to have to be a leasehold fee because appraisers need something to value, and they value the leasehold interest, which means you need a leasehold fee to do that calculation. But that also is around $500 a year, and that's intended to pay for loan monitoring, so checking for insurance annually and owner-occupant status. And then we are proposing some developer fee, so we're going to take some developer fee off the sales and put that into an operating reserve as seed money for future operations of the organization. And then if you use that developer fee concept, it starts to look more like multifamily development, where you're generating developer fees to pay for staffing. We also fully anticipate that there will be ongoing city funding, so having a local partner that is supportive of the program is important, and then other types of foundations and grants. And then hopefully Community Vision will give us money. So we're hoping for that, and we're hoping Margie will give us money in the city of Visalia for Yannicka's project.
I'll also say that within more grassroots organizations, like any nonprofit, it's really important that you think about your budget and how you're diversifying your sources of revenue. For our organization, we offer design and development services for other nonprofits in the community, so that's one way that we're able to get some revenue other than grant funding. But the grant funding subsidy is ongoing need for that to keep staffing and keep programs that are beyond just the housing development, but how are we activating the community?
Okay, any other
Just
questions?
to piggyback off of that.
Oh, yeah,
again,
sorry, Jen.
CLTs being grassroots, just the community also supporting, right? Donations, etc. So utilizing that and having folks be committed to this kind of model through that kind of community donations.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Is this a model too that farmers can utilize to house their workers?
Yeah, so conservation, land trust, you're asking about the housing and not the land. Yes, it could be a model. It depends what their financing sources are and what their ultimate goals are, whether it's home ownership or multifamily housing, and how they're going to finance that. But if they had a farm and they wanted to dedicate part of it for housing, they could put that under a land trust and have that own the land in perpetuity, and then decide if they wanted rental housing or home ownership. So it could be a model that's beneficial for farm worker housing.
Another question. I know that there's some people that lending here, and Joe and I are realtors. We're very involved and very vested in any kind of housing that can address our needs here. I want to know, is there some kind of a follow-up brainstorming session where we can bring some of these key individuals, like the financing, the developers, the whole team, to make it a reality, make it happen? It's a challenge. It is a challenge. Right now, finding the bank that will take the first mortgage, it's a challenge. They don't understand it. And so I feel like we need to have some kind of a follow-up meeting of the minds and develop it. what does it look like? How can we make it happen?
Go ahead, Jess. A shameless plug for the CLT conference. We actually have a lender, one of the lenders is putting together a workshop. There's a lender ask anything. I forget what the exact title, but it's like a discussion just like that. And so, and aside from that one, some others. So again, next September 25th to 26th, back here at the DoubleTree. You can put that slide back up.
I love it.
Okay, with that, we're going to wrap up. We're at time, so thank you all for coming and